and then Romney would say something, she would write me and say, well, wait a minute, Obama said this, Romney said this. Romney talks a good talk, but it just don't sound right because she's not used to hearing the truth.
Right.
So then I'll real quickly try to find something by Googling or whatever, and then put it back up in front of her. And that's what we have to do. We have to also tell them about the alternative news sources.
Yes.
And then we have to keep quoting it, and putting it forth. Send them emails. They may not want them. Send them anyway. Because they're going to read them because they're from you and they want to see what you got to say anyway. Send them political cartoons that have parody in them that make sense. The biggest thing, too, what I did with my family and my in-laws and whatnot and some of my friends is I keep preaching the Constitution and what it means and then what this country means and what our founding principles are, because they don't know. They haven't been taught that in school, and then for the most part they don't care, because people such as the Jesse Jacksons and the what's that dude's name, the Chavez guy out there in California and some of these other ones, they're telling them that the Constitution don't mean anything. Right. So when you can show them that, hey, this is for you just as much as it is for anybody else, and look at what it says. A simple principle in the Constitution, just take one of the amendments based upon what they're talking about, such as free speech, the right to bear arms, and on down the line. Show them one of the greatest things you can ever do. And now I had a lot of problems even with my wife because she came from a very liberal family. But what I did to her was to show her the history of both parties, the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. And that opened her eyes just like that. Because when you look at the lies that they told, that the Republican Party started the KKK, that the Republican Party was the party of hate, then I said, okay, let me show you something. And what I did was I started with Clinton and told her about how he was the understudy of Fulbright. Fulbright. And I said, now let's go back and look at Fulbright's voting record, and then let's look at some of the things that Clinton's vice president and his father did, Mr. Gore.
Right.
And I told her about the Civil Rights Act and showed her. Then I showed her how Mr. Al Gore's father wrote and what Al Gore said. I was proud of my daddy that he didn't vote for the Civil Rights Act. I said, now who was he? My wife would say, a Democrat. And I'd say, now let's take a look at Senator Durskin and what he did to filibuster so that the law can become the law of the land in 1964. And then look at the percentage of the Republicans that voted for it versus the percentage of the Democrats. You can't argue with facts.
That's right.
So she got won over. Now she's talking to her sisters and brothers.
So that's an encouragement for us to do our homework too. Someone else had a question.
Yeah, right up front here was one.
I was wondering how the Jewish vote is looking. I know in the past they've voted Democrat a lot, but he's been throwing Israel under the bus. How's that looking?
All it's doing is making them mad. I've been getting a lot of emails and Facebook posts about that too, especially on the West Coast. The East Coast Jewish people, it seems like it's a little tough, but I've been getting a lot of stuff from the West Coast, and they're on our side. For the majority of them are on our side. I need to look at some more demographics from the East, like New York, Massachusetts, where a lot of the larger Jewish communities are. But I know from what I'm seeing from the West Coast and the Middle East, the Midwest, the Jews in those locations are coming our way in large numbers. And matter of fact, somewhere I saw something about Jews against Obama. So that's great.
One of the things that the scriptures tells us, the Bible says that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Yep.
Now that's a biblical principle, but it's not only just for the Bible, it's truth. Truth is truth.
That's right.
And all truth comes from God. So he's told us, if we keep telling the truth, and the other night, Governor Romney kept telling the truth, and the non-truth frustrates the one who's telling the non-truth in the face of truth.
Yeah, they don't have a leg to stand on. And see, one of the things about the truth always wins. And the reason why the truth always wins is because the truth is always right, regardless to what they say and how they try to combat it, it still comes back around full circle. And I've had, okay, a good example would be, I guess I'll use my family. I won't pick on anybody else. My older brother, we took a trip this winter because we hadn't spent a whole lot of time together as kids because we fought each other all the time because of the conservatism liberal thing. So he's 65 now and I'm 61. So I called him one day and I said, look, why don't we get in the car and go someplace and talk and spend a couple days together. All the way down there, I just let him talk about Obama. He's great. Man, he's giving us this, he's giving us that. Look at me, I got an Obama phone. And I had no idea he had one. And I told him, I said, man, I can't believe you. So I started talking to him about entitlements. I started talking to him about the truth. I started giving him principles and what Obama stood for. He'd never heard any of that before. I pounded it about the second half of the trip going down and then all the way back. He looked at me and he said, you know, a lot of what you say is making sense. I never looked at it that way. But I had to keep pounding and pounding. If I would have gave up, which he made me so mad, sometimes I said, you knucklehead, you know. I wanted to give up because I said, I'll never get through to him. And it reminded me of a statement that Herman Cain, how many know Herman Cain, made. Herman Cain says, we have to save the savable, but there's nothing we can do about those that can't be saved. But if you find somebody that has an interest, or if you find somebody that there's a flicker in their eye, or you touch them a little bit because of something that you said, stay on it. Stay on them, because we can win them. So we save the savable, and the rest go. Hey, if it becomes 47%, like Ms. Romney said, let the 47% go, because we still outnumber them. Because 40%, and another thing too, don't look at that as a 40% number as 40% versus the other 53, because it ain't that way. What the people didn't hear Romney say was 47% of the people who support Obama, not 47% of the population. You get it? And like I've been telling everybody, I've had people call, my relatives call me, ha, 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 they got him now. You know, he made a racist statement. I said, no, he didn't. He made a good statement. It showed that he cared by making that statement. It was a statement saying, what can I do to help that 47%? And then some of my family members turned around and said, wow, you know what? I never looked at it that way. But if you go back and you combat them with, that's right, you dumb 47%, you know, that's what Romney said, and that's what he meant, and all 47% of you guys are going to hell or whatever, then they're going to fight against you. But I turned that around on him, and I said, look, he didn't say 47% of the American people. He said the 47% of Obama's followers. I said, not only that, but had he not said anything about that, it would show that he really didn't care. But by mentioning it, he cares. Okay.
My question is, some of the executive orders or some of the things that he might try to put in place here when he gets defeated, can President Romney do anything about those executive orders or the Congress to get those reversed?
Yeah. Just like Obama. You all remember